Everybody wants to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
Imagine making a difference. No, imagine being the difference. The difference between I can't and I can, or I won't and I will. The reason someone chooses to wake up and strive for greatness. In life, it can feel like everything is working against you. Let's defy all odds and break generational curses. This is Overstepping Poverty with Daquan and Zacchaeus. Welcome back to Overstepping Poverty, the podcast that provides you with tips, tricks, and hacks in overstepping poverty. My name's Daquan Brooks. I'm here with my co-host Zacchaeus Shaw. How you doing, Zacchaeus?
I'm doing good, man. Excited, as always, to get on another episode of Overstepping Poverty and highlight another special guest today. How are you doing?
I am doing great. This past week, I kind of just moved into a new pivotal moment in my life, and that's starting a goal of mine, and that's 75 hard. Everyone's heard of it, I'm sure. And I finally just decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to lie. My brother and my sister did it. And so I'm like, I can't be the only one in the family that hasn't done it.
Right.
So I've been tackling that, and the last few days it's been tough. It's a mental game. It's you're breaking different habits, like bad habits that you've had for a long time, bad habits that I've had for a long time. So, but it feels good. It feels good. So I'm a few days in. So I can't wait to just finish it. I'm excited. So
you got this, bro.
Yes, sir.
You got this.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to hop in and I want to introduce our special guest today. He is a father. He is a husband. He comes from California, Southern Cal. He's a lot of things, but here in Sioux Falls, he's known as the owner of Preaches Downtown. Welcome, Jonathon Vazquez.
Welcome.
Hey, what up, guys? Thanks for having me, man. It's been a crazy journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you hit me up, I was like, "Yo, this is dope." I made it, Mom.
Hey,
he made it.
We
to
appreciate
Overstepping
that.
Poverty.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. As we were just talking a little bit ago, I think I've known of you for a little over a year. I know you guys were getting ready to start your business. And we'll get into all of that. I'm really excited to hear about Preaches and let, our listeners know about you guys as well. But I want to kind of take it, to the beginning for you, right? Back to California as a young, child. Take us through that. What was it like growing up in Southern California?
It was crazy. You know what I mean? Growing up, my mom's from Guatemala, my dad's from Puerto Rico. So, you know what I mean? From, a parent that's immigrant, you know what I mean? Growing up, in the San Diego area, I grew up in Southern California.
Right.
And I was thinking about, just overstepping, poverty and what that means. And I mean, just like, I grew up, I don't want to say I grew up in poverty, but I mean, now that I think about it, sometimes we didn't even know what our next meal was going to be.
Wow.
I remember growing up, I go to school with fake Jordans on, the whole time. I'd flex them like they were real, but they weren't. I grew up in that, but one thing that I can say is a lot of those moments were challenging. Like, I can't remember one time where we didn't have a meal on the table. We always had a roof over our head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes our only meal that we had was because my parents took us to Boys and Girls Club. And they knew, look, if we put them in Boys and Girls Club, at least they're being fed there.
Right.
So, but that was that dope thing, that seeing my parents sacrifice and the things that they did helped me to be where I am now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, as I look back and think about, I'm 35 years old now, and just to see the challenges and the things that my parents have gone through, to give us a better life, I feel like to a certain extent I owe them that.
Right.
You know what I mean? They worked their butt off. They sacrificed so many things, so many sleepless nights where they didn't eat just to make sure we ate.
Right.
I'm like, I have a responsibility to make something of my life and leave a legacy that outweighs me. You know what I mean? So growing up in California, it was tough, but it was dope. You know what I mean? As kids, the kids, you don't think about those things. The parents are the ones that worry about the bills and this and that. And man, we were just living life. And man, if I was outside just playing with my friends, that's all we needed. You know what I mean? Oh. So until I started getting a little bit older, into my teenager years, I really started realizing, this is tough. Really what was going on. And I think those moments were really when I realized, okay, we're not part of this class. We're here. But like I said, I always go back to that in the midst of that, we always had what we needed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for me, that's something that I always take away, knowing that, my parents did the best that they could.
Yep.
And even as I think about overstepping poverty, for me, there's so much more that goes into that word.
Right.
And sometimes we think of poverty and quick it goes to this, I'm broke, this and that. But man, there's so much to unravel in that word that we can be rich in this area, but be so poor in this.
Yep.
And sometimes this can outweigh that.
Right.
Money comes and goes, and so that really just got me thinking. And I'm like, I want to be rich in my life, but holistically.
Right.
Not just where, I'm rich here, but man, this place is starving over here. You know what I mean? And so it really got me thinking as I was thinking about how I've grown up. It's really helped me shape who I am now. You know what I mean?
Right.
As a husband and as a father. I have a 5-year-old daughter. Her name is Zoe, and then my wife. We've been married. We got married November 2015. A week later, we moved to Sioux Falls.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Let's go.
So
How did you get here?
so how we got here, I would say is my wife's fault. You know what I mean? So my wife, she played soccer her whole life. Long story short, she ended up getting a scholarship to come play soccer at SDSU.
Okay.
And the original plan was for her to finish soccer, and then, we moved back. I was working back then at Northwestern Mutual.
Okay.
Financial advisor, doing all my things to do that. And I was like, all right, you go finish school. We'll, we live in San Diego. We'll have a good career and all that good stuff.
Right.
So we moved up here. She was doing her thing in soccer. Ended up getting an injury playing soccer. So she had to stop that. But since she just focused on school, finished her bachelor's. And then it was like, you know what? She's like, I want to finish my master's. I'm already here. I'll finish my master's. And then the plan was her finish her master's and then we'd get married.
Okay.
So I remember one Sunday afternoon, she calls me and she's like, hey, Jonathon, would you ever, just out of the blue, just randomly, she's like, would you ever consider moving to Sioux Falls? And I remember I was like, heck no. The first thought that came to me, I was like, I'm Hispanic. I know that's in the Midwest. There probably isn't much Hispanics out there. And so for the longest time, I fought it. But now looking back at it, man, like I said, we got married November 2015. And then we moved here a week later. Our whole time we've been married, we've pretty much been here. Wow. I wouldn't change it. Everything works itself out for a purpose, and, we're here now.
Absolutely. I have to ask, what is your kind of the toughest part of that move? Picking up and leaving home base, what really kind of, when you think back to it, you're just like,
oh, yeah, for sure.
I miss this. I miss that.
I don't even need to think about that. First and foremost, the food.
Yeah.
As you guys can see, I'm not that slim, but man, I love my food.
Oh, yeah. Same.
People that live in California, if you're from California, you live in California, you're spoiled.
Right.
Because you have all types of food and everything is bomb. But that's what I joke right now. I miss the food, but the number one thing that I do, I'm a big relational guy. Everything that I do, I try to be intentional and relational. And back home, I was really involved in my community, my work community, my faith community, and just in the community, I was really involved. And for me to let go of that, just like that, and be like, move to the Midwest. It's not like if I'm moving like an hour or two away. I'm moving, across the country.
Right.
So for me, that was the hardest part. And then leaving my whole family. My whole family was back in home. It was just going to be my wife and I. And I'm like, I'm literally leaving everything behind. Not even knowing what's out there, not even having a job.
Man.
You know what I mean? I knew that I can always transfer with Northwestern Mutual and this and that, but that wasn't something that I was even passionate about.
Right.
I was doing it because I knew that, hey, I can make a career out of it. It's safe, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't something that I was passionate about.
Yeah.
So that was like a plan B for me. Like, okay, if I go out there and I don't find anything, I can always do what I, did with Northwestern Mutual and whatnot. But for me, I would say that was the hardest part, leaving my just the relationships that I built, and my community. I remember, like the week before I was going to move, I was just in my room, I was just crying. Yeah. Like, I'm really going to leave this, like my family, my friends, everything. And for me, that was so hard, to leave that behind, knowing that I don't know what's to come or what's going to be there. You know what I mean? But I did know, I'm a relational guy. So because of that, okay, I'm gonna do everything I can to then what am I going to do to build those relationships? You know what I mean? When I'm out there, so kind of just help change my perspective on that, of not focus on the negative, but then try to turn that and be like, okay, this is where we're at. We know that this is what's best for us now. You know what I mean? And try to change that perspective.
Yep.
I like that, because I know there's probably somebody that's going to listen to this that is kind of at that same crossroad, right? Of thinking, should I go do this or should I stay? I have my whole life here. what would you say to some of those people that are on the fence? What was something that really helped you come to terms with that?
For sure. I mean, and I hear that from a lot of people that live here in the Midwest. They're born and raised. They're not leaving because it's all they know. Their family's here, and I get it. You know what I mean? But I've seen how a lot of people have lost opportunities for things because of that. You know what I mean? And for me, and that what I would say to that is like, we're all afraid of the unknown and uncertainties. As human beings, if I'm going to go right, I know what's going to be here. If I'm going to go left, I know what's going to be here. The moment we don't know that, we freak out. You know what I mean? But to me, to that is like, things are already planned out for us. You know what I mean? And things happen for a reason.
Right.
So if I know that, I'm gonna take this big step, and I might be leaving all this behind, but it's not gonna be in vain. It's gonna be worth it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And at the end of the day, and I was just talking about it with a good friend of mine. He lives in Arizona. We're on the phone. As I'm getting older, I don't see things as mistakes. I see them as experiences.
Yeah.
So even say, I move out and say I come to find out that wasn't the best decision, or I shouldn't. For me, it's an experience, and I feel that one way or another, I can always learn something through that.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll help me. You know what I mean? So if that means that I have to come back or whatever that may be, that's not the end.
Right.
It's not, I didn't make the right choice. My life is over. No, okay. What did I learn from this? And it's never too late. You know what I mean? So that's how,
Facts.
I would just say that. You know what I mean? It's never too late, and take it as an experience.
Right. I like that as well.
That's a very powerful outlook, and that's one thing we always talk about on the podcast. It's all about your perspective, and that can make or it can break you, because you could have had a terrible experience out here just because if you're leaving everything, and if in your head the entire time you're like, this is not going to go well, this is not going to go well. Well, the things that we think typically become true. It's
exactly.
I said it in our previous episode where Bob Proctor, he said a quote that always just stuck with me. And that's, if you think it, you'll be able to hold it.
Yeah. That's good.
And I always believe in that. Exactly. So if you're thinking negative, it's going to end up being negative. If you think positive, it's going to be positive.
I heard it said, it's if I believe a lie for so long, that'll become my truth and my reality.
Man.
The longer I believe that this wall right here, if it's a wood wall, I believe it's red. And I keep telling myself that's what I'm going to believe.
Yep.
Even if there's evidence that it isn't.
Yep.
That's how just powerful our mind is.
Yep.
Right.
So I think, perspective is so huge on how am I looking at this? And I know it might sound cliche, and people have said it. Am I looking at the glass half empty or half full?
Yep.
Speaking of mindset, how has the mindset changed for Jonathon, 7 days, a week before November 20th, 2015, and now? What's the difference between that Jonathon and this one today?
Oh, man. For me, it's so much to unpack in that, especially those that are fathers know, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, just having Zoe, my little girl, has just changed my life drastically. You know what I mean? But I think, too, and I still am, I'm still working on it, but I was a lot more selfish, you know what I mean, back then than what I am now. You know what I mean? I said I'm still working through that because I can still be selfish at times, you know what I mean? But I would say I was a lot more selfish back then, and now realizing where it's not just about me. Like, the decisions that I make now don't just affect me.
Right.
They immediately will affect my wife, my daughter, now even more so, the people that are on our team and all that. It's like I'm realizing that now more.
Yeah.
Not that back then my decisions didn't affect more people. Now I'm just aware of that.
Right.
Like, my decisions now affect more than just me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? People that I might not even know. You know what I mean? So for me, I've grown in that just to try to be more aware, more intentional.
Yeah.
So back then I didn't really care. I was trying to live it up. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah. But I think for me, that's been a big thing, being more aware of, the decisions that I make now will affect not just me, but a lot more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That self-awareness is definitely big.
I kind of want to move a little bit forward here. Obviously, you stated you moved here to Sioux Falls. It sounds like when you were a financial advisor, when you moved to Sioux Falls, you weren't doing that anymore.
To be honest, I stopped doing that. I stopped doing that, and as you get to know me, faith is a big part of mine. My wife was really plugged into a church here locally, and what I did was I came and I interned at that church. I interned for that summer, and then at the end of the internship that summer, they offered me a full-time position.
Nice.
And so I went on and did that for 7 years. Yeah. So
Wow.
So for me, like I said, it was like, when we came over here, it'd been a lot easier if I had a job, if we had this and we had that. We didn't, you know what I mean? But like I said, I knew I had this plan B, and I'll touch on that later on, but like, to me, it's like I didn't want to do that, and not just that I didn't want to do that. I knew that I wasn't called to do that.
Sure.
it was a safety net for me. And so, I took this opportunity, and I was just, blessed enough that I got that opportunity. And, they offered me a full-time position when that internship ended, and was there 7 years until I came off of that.
That's crazy.
To open preaches.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. Because you didn't know.
No, I didn't know
that was going to happen.
It would have made the decision a lot easier if I would have known that.
Right.
Well, I got this set up, it'll be fine. No, I didn't know that, and took that leap of faith, and trusted that God had a plan in that.
Yeah.
Even though I couldn't see it. You know what I mean? Knowing that, okay, God, you have a plan, whatever that is, we'll see it come. And eventually, we did.
Yeah. With your faith being so big and important to you, how have you kept that faith in your life with all those changes? Moving here, having a child, starting a business. Like, how has faith guided you through all of those things?
For me, I'd say that's the only thing. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be. You know what I mean? That knowing that, I know, regardless of all the uncertainty, regardless of the unknown, I know I have this here.
Right.
And whatever that may be to anybody, it's like, for me, that was a huge thing where I know, like, in the midst of not knowing, I know that I have this.
Right.
And so that was the thing that really helped me move forward in knowing, okay, things might not look the way I wanted them to right now, or I don't even know what they should look like, but I know I have this. And I know that I can go to that and count on that.
Right.
And for me, that was a pillar in my life early on since we moved to Sioux Falls, and knowing, okay, I have this, I know everything else will work itself out.
Right.
And so for me, my faith was, that's everything, you know what I mean? Like, that's just part of who I am, you know what I mean? For me, and I say this in all humbleness and everything, and it's not something that I do, it's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was very instrumental in my life, and especially in the season of moving to Sioux Falls, was I knew that I had that anchor there.
Yeah.
So then I knew everything else would just take care of itself.
Where did that come from? How was that instilled into your life?
I mean, growing up, I grew up as what some people that are in that call it, pastor's kid. My parents were pastors.
Okay.
So I just grew up in that, you know what I mean? And so my parents at a very young age instilled that in us.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that, because there's a lot of principles that I've learned from that and have helped me, you know what I mean? But my parents, I grew up in the church, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was my whole life. So from a very young age, you know what I mean, was really, I saw that within my parents, and saw how, in the midst of their troubles and tribulations, they had their anchor. They knew what they can go to.
Right.
And so that was big for me, because then I was like, okay, they set a precedent, and knowing, okay, then at least I have this that I know I can count on. You know what I mean? So, yeah, my parents were very influential in that at a very young age.
Yeah, that's really cool, because for me, growing up, faith or anything like that really wasn't introduced to my life until I moved back to Sioux Falls, because I'm from here originally. I lived out in Vegas for 8 to 9 years, and when I came back, in Vegas, we would very rarely go to like a Sunday service or something like that. But when I got back here to Sioux Falls, I went to O'Gorman, which is a Catholic school out here. And it was just a complete change. I'm starting to, and going there, I had the mindset of, well, I'm already here, so I might as well learn it. But that was just my first experience with it. And I think it's cool, just the differences between somebody like you who grew up with always having that in their life and being able to rely on it. And then there's a lot of people that they don't get introduced to that for so long.
Sure.
And then when they do, they may have different types of thoughts on who that is to them, and it's so different and so personal to each individual person. I definitely highly suggest you find whatever it is that you believe in, because when those times get tough and you have nobody to talk to,
that's the thing.
That's who you're talking to. Find a place for that in your life for sure.
Yeah. Because regardless of where you're at, and that is like, I don't feel that we were meant to do life alone. You know what I mean? And when you have those there, and you have that one thing that you go to, you know what I mean? Whatever that may be. For me, my faith in that is like, I know that I have that there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so. Yeah, that's a good word.
I love it.
Going off of that, I kind of think back to just growing up and different stages in my life, and just how I always had someone that played a pivotal, moment in my life, or a pivotal time in my life to be either a mentor or a role model. whether it's my brother who taught me, football, and that gave me my career and inspiration to play football. My best friend's dad, who was my basketball coach, and he was kind of a father figure for me, or my mom, Diane, who taught me how to really control my emotions and how to break barriers like with myself and others by writing things down to really figure out myself. Who would you say is a big role model for you?
That's one of the things, man, that I definitely wanted to talk about. I'm assuming everybody has said that that's one of their tips. But like, man, mentors and role models are huge in my life. Huge. I have 3 mentors, you know what I mean? And for me, they've been just so instrumental in my life, you know what I mean? One of them has been my pastor. Another one is he's a financial advisor. He has his own company though. He lives here, but his office is in Dallas, Texas, so he flies out a lot. And so he's one of them. And then a guy named Astor Chambers. He was actually an exec at Nike. He was an exec at Adidas, and he ended up with Apple. And now he's been really mentoring. He was actually out here with us about a couple months ago, checking out the store and really helping us on this journey. Wow. They've been very instrumental in my life. And like I said, it's just been so cool to see how the pieces have come together. Man, but I can't stress it enough, and I'm glad you brought that up, man. Having mentors in your life is so important. I think especially, our generation, but even the younger generation, Gen Z, sometimes we can get in our way to think that we got it figured out. We know it all. This and that, but please, I can't stress this enough, and I want to save you so much time, money, everything. Find yourself a mentor. I think there's so many people out there that want to help, and I think, finding a mentor in our lives it's just huge. And if you need help doing that, whatever that may be, it's just ask. But I think it's just so important that we find that one or two people that can help us walk this journey. Because, man, when I started really figuring it out and seeing like, I can get the wisdom of this guy that's been doing this for so long, it's gonna save me so much headaches. So much, you know what I mean? It's like, I want to get that. But then into that too is like, I remember at the beginning I was like, I want to be a sponge. I want to be a sponge and just take it all in. But then my mentor started helping with that. I was like, don't think about it just being a sponge, because when you're a sponge, you take it all in, but what are you doing with it? It just sucks it up. It's like be more like a reservoir. You know what I mean? So I started thinking about it more. Okay, I want to take that in, but then how is that coming out? You know what I mean? And because then how can I be that to someone? You know what I mean? So but I can't encourage you and stress it enough. Find a mentor. That's huge in our lives.
At what point in your life did those mentors really come into your life, would you say?
Back home in California, I had a mentor, and he still is, but we're so far away. I still link up with him quarterly, you know what I mean? And we link up, but he was very instrumental in me realizing, like making this move was the right thing for my family. He's the one that really sat me down, a week or two, before that move, and because I was really stressing with it and really having a hard time with it. And I remember he really sat me down and helped me with that perspective aspect and really helped me see it in a different lens. And I can't thank him enough, because that was a very pivotal moment in my life. I was coming, and even though my wife wanted to come, even still, like a week or two before we were going to move, I was set in my mind, we're not moving, we're going to stay here. Even though I knew this was the right thing to do, what I mean? And he really helped me with that. And so I'd say, early on, that was really, beneficial. And I think it's never too early to find a mentor. You know what I mean? I think there's so many people out there that want to help. I think sometimes as the younger people, we just got to lay down a little bit of our pride. And just take that, because they want to help.
I was going to say, you really just said it, I think, or answered my question. The question was going to be, what do you think attributes to the younger age people and fighting that and not really wanting to get that mentor?
We think that we know it all. We know a lot. Social media has played a factor in that. I always say social media is a very powerful tool. It's very powerful, and it can be used 2 ways, the good or the bad. You know what I mean? But I think social media has also done a job. Then there's this instant gratification that I feel that is really prevalent in our society right now. I want it now. I want it now. Boom, boom, boom. That's why you even see in new products now. You can lose weight in 10 minutes or this and that. Everything is now it's a microwave era. That if I want it now, quick, you know what I mean? And it's like life doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? And so I think for us as the younger generation, even the younger generation, younger than us, is to not think of it that way. Not, this instant gratification that gratification that you get in the moment won't last.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So constantly thinking, okay, what's really gonna last? I'm gonna, a lot of people want they want freedom, but they don't understand that discipline comes hand in hand. You can't separate those.
Right.
But if you want that freedom, if you want to go and live it out, well, you need to be disciplined. Whether that's your finances, emotionally, spiritually, physically, you need to put the work in here, and this will come.
Right.
And so for me, that's a big one too, is instant gratification where we want it now. If I don't learn that now, like, you see all these things, you can make money now this fast, and it's all over social media and TikTok. And I think that's, I go back to it's a powerful tool. It's good, but it can also be bad, because then now everybody's mindset is, I can become a YouTuber overnight and I'll make all this money. And it's like, that's not how it works. It's very few, you know what I mean? That's not how people put the work and the time into it. And I think that's why I think it's so important to find a mentor and really be intentional about that too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I really enjoy exactly what you just said, especially playing off of that, the mentality of people saying that they just want it now. They want it now. And I mean, each individual that we have on here, the business owners, the entrepreneurs, the leaders of the community and whatnot, they all have a story and they all have a journey, of course, that they go through. Like you just stated, I mean, in your story and in your journey, I mean, you started off in SoCal, and you moved to Sioux Falls. But during that process, you were a financial advisor, you were a pastor, and then now, I mean, you're a CEO and founder of Preaches, and so like that journey, like most people where they think you just jump right into it and it just makes it doesn't happen that way. And you're living proof, as well as every single individual that we have on here, and so kind of going off that as well, I wanted to jump into what everyone knows you as is now as that CEO and founder of Preaches. What inspired you to build this business, to build this platform for everyone? I mean, especially even Sioux Falls, like you brought something huge here.
I've always been into streetwear and sneakers. Like I said, growing up how I did, I had to find my way of expressing that. So like I said, like I would remember I'd tell my parents, like, can you buy me these Jordans? And they're like, we're going to go to LA. In LA, downtown LA, they have these things in Spanish, they call them callejones. They're alleys where you get everything. Swap meet. But it's like everything's knockoff. So you got, like, everything's knockoff, right? For $10, $5 to $20.
Right.
And so my parents would be like, we can't, but, we'll go get these over here. So, I'd always be rocking the freshest Jordans, but they were all knockoffs, Right. So from the very beginning, I was always into it. I love sneakers and I love streetwear, but I couldn't afford it, so I had to make it my own. And to a certain extent, like, I was okay with that. You know what I mean? I was content with that, because I was just like, they look like them. Nobody know they don't. Right. You know what I mean? So I just lived that up. And so for me, it's like I've always enjoyed that. I've always been passionate about that. Like moving to Sioux Falls, like when I moved here, I was like, there's none of that here. And for me, like I had been reselling sneakers and streetwear apparel for like 5-6 years now, just doing it from home. And I remember, my wife was finally like, like you have too much inventory in the house. You need to figure something out. You know what I mean? Then when the pandemic happened, some things just kind of clicked, and certain opportunities came about where we're like, like something's missing here in Sioux Falls. And I've always said, like, be that change that you want to see. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, okay, every time I would go on vacations, I always make it a point, I'm going to go to these stores because I don't have that back in Sioux Falls. So I remember talking with my brother and a couple friends and my wife. I'm like, like, what if we did this here in Sioux Falls? You know what I mean? Like, what if we brought this to Sioux Falls and gave people an experience? I'm big on experiences. My mentor told me, people won't remember what you tell them, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm huge on giving people an experience, how do people experience things. And so I'm like, what if we did something and provided something for people that, they experience when they go on vacation. You know what I mean? Why not, going back to what we were talking about earlier, why not here in Sioux Falls? Yeah. And so for me, that was a big thing that I took on, was like, I believe that we can do something special here in Sioux Falls. And here in Sioux Falls, we're like about a year and a half, 2 years behind fashion trends. So we knew that, we would be coming in the right time to really kind of help shape where culture's going here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And through that, we were able to link up with Tyler and some other guys that are, killing it in the community with that. And so, for us was a big thing of like, I was always been into streetwear and sneakers. And I'm like, okay, why don't we just really, and I'm always big on really wanting to make an impact. I've always been taught that from the very beginning. So I'm like, if I can take what I'm passionate about and do something with it within our community, why not? You know what I mean?
Right.
And offer that to people here in Sioux Falls. You know what I mean? So that was a big thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's dope. Tell us about the sacrifices, man. The sacrifice that it took to even get this thing up and running.
Yeah, bro, people don't know, man. It's funny, like my brother and I, and even Tyler, we talk about it all the time. But there's so much that went into us even opening preaches that people don't even know. But first and foremost, like I said, so I came off staff where I was at my church January 2022 or 2023 right now. Yeah, January 2022. We were in the process, literally in January, the first week of January, to buy a new home.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the paperwork and everything, and we were going to buy a new home. Long story short, it was a mess. We got out of that, ended up selling our house, and then we moved downtown in March, and then boom, we opened our store.
Wow.
So like, I remember talking with my wife, there was so much going on. I just, boom, like came off, stable career, blah, blah, church, getting salary, all that, being well taken care of there.
Right.
And then now going to like, we're going to sell our house and, open a new business.
Right.
and I can't say it enough, man. Like having, my wife has been so supportive. That's huge. She's always believed in me, and my number one cheerleader, and always been supportive. And so sometimes I can't believe how much I'm like, I'm crazy and you still believe this? You know what I mean? Right. But yeah, so, we sold our house and then we moved downtown because the reason why we moved downtown too, I was like, I want to be a part of the community that we want to impact. And we want to be, I want to be there. I want to be immersed in it. I don't want to be just like an outsider coming in. And what I mean by that is just like, I just felt like, my heart was always to open a store downtown. So I'm like, if I'm going to be downtown, I want to be in that community. I want to visit the restaurants. I want to be a part of the community there. I want to be in the coffee shops there, because I was noticing, I used to live, and we had a nice house in the southwest side of town, but I rarely got downtown. I rarely went downtown. And so I told my wife, like, okay, like let's try this out, living downtown for a year, see how it goes. We're right there close to, where we're going to have the store. And it's been awesome, So that was a big sacrifice, I'm like, I just sold our house. And what if this doesn't work? What if this doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, and we're like, but I remember telling my wife, like, okay, we don't have a plan B. Like, our money, our savings, we're investing it in this. This is all in here.
Right.
We took with my wife's not 401k out. This is it.
All money in.
There's no plan B. Like, we gonna make it work somehow. You know what I mean? And so we got that hurdle. And the other one, and a lot of people don't know about this, and I don't like to talk about it much because it's cool that people don't know it, like what we went through, but it's a cool story. So long story short, we were supposed to open the store July 8th, right? That was July 8th of 2022. A week before that, so the weekend, the 4th of July weekend, so it was a weekend before that, I was on my way to a meeting, but I was like, I'm just going to stop by the store, see how they should have been finishing it up. The contractor was like, he's like, the weekend before you guys open, you should be able to get the keys of the warehouse so you can start bringing inventory in. And during the week, set up the showroom, blah, blah, blah. It's all good. Fine. And so I get there Friday at 10, and I to go pick up the keys. And the foreman was there. And I'm talking to him. And I'm like, I'll just, come and pick up the keys just so we can see when we can start moving things into the warehouse. And then he's like, oh, yeah, you can pick up the keys July 11th. For a second, I thought he was joking, so I started laughing. I'm like, you're funny, blah, blah, blah. And he's just stern face. Nothing. Like, he's serious. So I'm like, okay, this guy is serious. Like, he's not laughing with me. Like, what the heck's going on?
Right.
And I'm like, bro, so we were opening July 8th, but then July 7th, we had a friends and family event. I had people that they already had bought tickets. They were flying in. A dude that did a mural was coming in. A dude that did a paint. Like, a lot of people were coming in, flying in.
Yeah. Right.
For this. They had booked flights, tickets for the friends and family, which was, it's going to be Thursday. July 8th was a Friday.
Right.
So I'm like, and we had digital billboard. We had a marketing campaign everywhere. We spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
We're opening July 8th. And I'm like, we're opening July 8th. Like, that's what we had talked about, with the contractor. Long story short, there was a miscommunication between the contractor and the foreman. But I want to say, they've been so gracious. They've been amazing. They were amazing with us. Like, they did a beautiful job.
It's a dope spot.
They did a beautiful job. They killed it. I recommend them all day. They're dope.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to that. And one thing that my mentor always told me, you can never over communicate, but you can definitely under communicate.
Yeah.
So I took that as an experience. I'm like, I could have over communicated that. You know what I mean? Always trying to learn too. Is like, I don't want to be putting the blame, but like, what could have I done better? You know what I mean? And so I want to make sure I make that clear that they're amazing. You know, the contractor's been so
Yeah.
great, and they did a dope job, and they kill it.
Right.
So then we're like, all right, well, you know, we're gonna meet with the contractor. We got to make it happen that weekend. And so it was 4th of July weekend. Everything's closed.
Right.
Right. So they're like, we can't get anybody to work this week. And then Monday was 4th of July, so Monday was closed, so nobody's working Monday.
Right.
We're like, no, this ain't happening. If you would have seen the store that Saturday, you would not believe. You're like, there's no way in chance that you're opening. No way.
Wow.
So we meet early Saturday morning, the whole team, we meet at the store, and we meet with the contractor. Like, bro, he was wanting to work with us and do everything he had to do, but there was just nobody working.
Yeah.
So in that, I have a buddy that he sells designer clothing and designer bags and all that. Well, the big thing that was missing was the floor wasn't epoxied and all that, and that was a big thing. So then they can go ahead and paint and do everything else.
Yep.
He used to do epoxy for 10 years prior to that.
Wow.
So I hit him up. I'm like, yo, we're going to epoxy this floor this weekend. And he's like, bet I'm on my way. He got there in an hour.
That's dope.
So long story short, so now, that's what I'm saying, it just gets crazier and crazier. Everything's closed. We can't find anywhere to rent equipment, buy this and that. So finally Saturday, like at 10 at night, a buddy that he used to work with, he finally got a hold of him because he was out of town for 4th of July. He's like, yeah, go pick up the equipment at my house, blah, blah. So we went to go pick up the equipment, and we're there, dude. We're there like till like 3, 4 in the morning Saturday working, you know what I mean, sanding. And then it was like, I was like, yo. I remember like that night, I woke up that morning and I woke up with a stress rush in my eye. Just about stress and everything's going on. I'm like, yo, we got to open the store this week. So then all day Sunday, we're going ham. And so the store needed to be ready for the painter to come paint Tuesday. Because they needed to epoxy the floor and paint. Everything else then we did, and everything was going to be ready to go. So the store needed to be dry. The floor needed to be dry Tuesday morning at 10 or 12. So we've epoxied. We haven't epoxied yet. We did everything else that you need to do, and now the epoxy is it's easy. That just got to lay it. That's the easiest part. It doesn't take that long. Sunday, the only place that was open was Menards, so we went and bought the epoxy and everything there. And Monday, we're like, guys, we actually probably gonna make this. We're working our butt off at this. And my homie, he's getting all the epoxy ready, and he gets on his knees and he opens the first one, and he has dreads. And all I see is his head go like this, and then dreads just come down. Like, I felt so defeated, and I didn't know what was going on, but I knew what was going on.
Right.
And I'm like, yo, what happened, bro? What happened? And he finally looks at me, and he's like, I got the wrong stuff.
Oh, fuck.
Now, this is Monday at 8:15. Menards closes at 8.
Oh, my gosh.
And so we're like, yo, we're done. We're done. Like this, you know what I mean? That was our only hope. Well, long story short, the guy that let him borrow the equipment, he had a whole bunch of epoxy. So we finally got a hold of him like at 10 at night. He's like, yeah, go to my house, pick it up, and we'll pay for it or whatever.
Yeah.
We finally got the epoxy, so we're epoxying. The thing that saved us was the epoxy that he has, a really good epoxy that dries up in like 2 to 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Late night on Monday. So when the painter came at 10 a.m.,
It's
it was
good.
Ready to go.
And so people, I tell you, like people don't even know, the work that we had to do, literally blood, sweat, and tears. We joke around and we say, yo, we do this now too. You know what I mean? If you ever need your floors epoxied, we got you.
That experience.
Exactly. But like I said, like, and I tell that story is the reason why is to say like, yo, like when you found what your purpose is and what you've been called to do, you'll do whatever it takes to see that through.
That's facts.
You know what I mean? And we all knew, like, everybody bucked up. It was 4th of July weekend. We did. My brother did. Tyler did. My buddy that, that had been doing epoxy, like, yo, we're here. Mm-hmm. And for me, like, I'm just indebted to them in that because, man, they believed in that, in the vision.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, they sacrificed their time with their family and this and that to see this through and make it happen. And for me, that's a thing that I would say is, man, whatever you feel like you're being called to do, there's going to be obstacles. There's going to be things don't always go your way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys know that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Stuff never goes their way, especially as an entrepreneur, business owner. Things don't go. Yep. And I wish in a ideal world, everything just works out. Mm.
Perfectly.
It didn't. And you know what I mean? So those are things that, when you feel, when you're called to do something, I'm passionate. This is what I'm going to do. Be prepared. There will be obstacles, but you'll be able to get through it.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have those people there with you. you'll be able to get through that and see it. And I think that makes everything a lot more for us. When we look back at that, we value it a lot more.
Yep.
Oh man.
You know what I mean? Like, yo, like we literally put our blood, sweat, and tears into this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To make it happen and to see it through. And for us, is, you know, we're very proud of that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, yeah, those are some obstacles that we had to, you know, endure in the process of you know, opening Preaches.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because that's crazy. And that's how it was, kind of, not to that extreme, of course, but when we were starting this, it felt like almost one thing
Right,
after
yeah,
another, and you're
exactly.
like knocking them down. And when you actually, well, let me ask you, what was that feeling that first day you guys opened up the store?
Yo, it was a blessing. I remember I started crying, bro, just seeing the people lined up. There was like 40 to 50 people outside the store. We hadn't even opened yet.
Yeah.
You know, and the funny thing about that, and this goes to that, you know what I mean? Like, so I had ordered a mirror for the store, and I had to go pick it up at Walmart. I had to pick it up the day of. Long story short, they got the wrong one.
Of course, right?
I ordered the right one, and they said they had it in stock, and they gave me a different color one. And so somebody went to go pick it up, and they brought it to the store, and I was all frustrated and mad. And this was a good moment for me to check me, and it challenged me. My brother wanted to go pick it up, and he brought the mirror, and I was just frustrated. I'm like, yo, we're about to open the store here in an hour, and they got us the wrong mirror. And when I went to go put the mirror, so they had painted everything, but whatever it was there before, they had taken the stickers off, but they had wording there that the indent was still there. So if you look close enough, and I'll show you when you guys go to start showing, when you go close enough, you see what it says. And as I'm putting the mirror there, being frustrated and stressed, literally what the sticker said is, "Don't stress the small things."
Oh my gosh.
That's them signs.
Yo, I was like,
Right.
I remember, like, bro, it was a moment because I was so mad and stuff.
Wow.
I was, oh, you know what I mean? And when as I'm putting the mirror right there, it says, "Don't stress the small things," bro. I was just like, I started tearing up. And I'm like, yo, like, you know what I mean? That really taught me a lot in that moment of, literally not stressing this. It's a mirror.
Yep.
Right.
We'll figure it out. And we still have that mirror to now.
Right.
We're rocking with that mirror, but that taught me a lot in that moment. You know what I mean? Of knowing that, you know, things are going to come.
Yeah.
Things are going to come. It's not a matter of if, they will. It's life.
Yep.
You know, we go through life in these seasons, and there's ups and downs. There's good seasons, there's bad seasons. And I think is knowing that, the thing that helps me, keeps me moving forward, is when I'm in those low seasons, it's temporary. It's just a season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was a funny thing.
That's big too.
Tell us about your partnerships. It's you know, we've been reading up on you and whatnot, and it seems like you guys have come a long way in a year. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big thing that we even talk about amongst our team. Like, you know, the things that we've been blessed to do and partner with. Only being now just about to be a year into it, doesn't really happen that much. You got to, you know, build into that, this and that. But man, people have really believed in us and championed us and really just given us opportunities and really, you know, taking a chance on us. And we're just forever grateful for that. But one of the bigger partnerships that we have is with the Skyforce.
Yep.
That's been really, really dope partnership to be a part of.
Yeah.
And the team out there has just been so welcoming. You know what I mean? And it's been cool because for us, and like I said, for us is, we don't just want to be known as a sneaker store. Even in that, when people ask me, "What do you guys do?" or this and that, like, and we're still figuring what that wording is or whatever one would say.
Yeah.
But we don't just want to be known as a sneaker store. For us, is we really want to make an impact in our community by doing what we're passionate about. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so within that, we really want to partner with everything that encompasses culture. Right. You know what I mean? So we had that opportunity with the Skyforce. We're like, yo, this goes hand in hand. You know what I mean? And so that's been a beautiful partnership, and it's been dope to see what's going on. We have some really cool things that we're going to do this coming season. I can't say too much on that, but we're going to partner up, and we're going to do a sneaker convention together. So that's really exciting. That's going to be dope. We have some things coming down that. That'll be in the fall. Just cool things like that. Then we partnered with a good friend of mine. His name is Dom. He owns a barbershop in Rapid City.
Okay.
Called Sixth Throne.
Yep.
They're killing out there.
Dom cut it. He used to cut my hair.
Okay.
Shout out to
There
Dom.
you go.
Yep. He used to cut my hair. I was one of his first
So
in his
you from Rapid
apartment.
or what?
No, we lived out there though. We lived out there for 3 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, then you know,
Oh yeah.
And he's come a long way, man.
Yep.
He's
has.
He's been killing it, man. He's been killing it, and so That was another partnership that we did, and it was just cool how we got connected in that. And so they've come out here and they've used our shop to cut hair and stuff like that. And then we've gone out there and done a pop up and stuff like that.
Oh,
and so
that's really cool.
Yeah, just to really build that partnership. And another thing too is there's this sense of it's the East versus the West when it comes to South Dakota. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So we're like, that'd be cool. Coming together and doing that. And here at the end of July, we're because of the partnership that we have, and Dom's been just cheering us on. We're doing this barber convention in Denver called Rumble at the Rockies. That's a dope thing. It's a big convention it's a barber convention, but they asked us to be there.
Wow,
and we're gonna be the only sneaker store there.
Let's go.
So it's just been cool to see these partnerships and things come because we want to impact the community. We want to involve other things that are part of the culture and things like that. So for us, we're always open to that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just doing different things like that. And so we're just really excited with what we're doing with that. And we're partnering with a couple other people that are going to be coming on board here soon. And we're going to do some cool things with them once we have that finalized. I can talk more about it, but we got some cool things coming up.
That's awesome.
And our heart in that has always been to, really partner, with people that are killing it here in the community. You know what I mean? Early on, I was like, we need to partner and do this and that. But then my community and the people that are really speaking to my life were like, that's cool and all that, but what about the people here in the community that are here? And that really helped change my perspective. And I go back to having those mentors, those people that will challenge you. That helped me so much. I'm like, there's a lot of great creatives and people here, great programs, organizations. Why don't you partner here? And so that's really been our focus. We were really going to partner with a big company that does sneaker conventions around the world. But they're global, and so we're like, we're scaled down and really work on here first.
Yeah. Sure.
You know what I mean? And then when we started doing that, these opportunities came about. So, like I said, everything always works itself out for the good. But for us, we're trying to be intentional about who we partner with, how we do it.
Yeah.
And talking about it with my brother, and you guys probably attest to this too, is like, for me, is like, I want to impact the community to show other people that look like me. That, I can do this too.
Yep.
I grew up really having nothing, you know what I mean? And so for me to be like, if I can do this, anybody can do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And for me, that's huge. Like I said, I don't just want to be another owner in Sioux Falls. Like, I really want to impact our community. And I want people to see that. And I want kids that are younger than me that come into the store that, somebody that looks like me or us can do this as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so for me, going back to what's that legacy that I'm leaving? You know what I mean? And that's huge for me because when I think too, also when we think about legacy, we think, when I die, the legacy starts now.
Right.
That's huge on me. You know what I mean? Especially with certain things that have happened here in Sioux Falls. I want to really be a voice to that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's a big thing that keeps me going and really wanting to be a partner with the communities here and the people that are really wanting to be a part of it in the community. So,
I think that is amazing because that's really what we're doing as well. With just trying to, shine light on people like you and Bobby and just everybody that we've had on here. It is focusing here because, like you said, there's amazing people here that are doing amazing things. So I can't agree with you more on that. And I think that's really where people will start to see that. And I think people will start to be more of themselves. Yeah. People will start to hop out and jump out the window with it and go all in on what they want to believe or what they do believe in and stuff like that. So I think that's really awesome. I wanted to ask you the question of, your brother is involved with your business as well. And for me, family is very important. I have a very close-knit family. And why is that important for you to have family involved in the business?
For me, especially, I could go back to that's how I was brought up, and still that, family's everything. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to go turn on everybody, but family's everything. You know what I mean? And so for me, it was like, I know that because I've seen the other side of the coin too, when family, you hear a lot of people say, don't get in business with your family. Yeah. But I think a lot of it goes to the relationships within that. And early on, my mentors stress this to me in everything, regardless of who it is, always set clear expectations. You know what I mean? Because then that's good on your end and on the other person's end. You know what I mean? So for me is knowing that I got family, because I was just talking to my brother on the way here. Is like, I know that my brother has my back regardless. You know what I mean? And he's going to see it through. He believes in the vision. He's like, I'm there with you. I'm rocking with you. You know what I mean? I know if I called him around, we need to go do this, he's there. Right. You know, so for me, family is big. We got to go back to the legacy. And I always think about for me, opening preaches, even early on when people would tell me who's the owner of Preaches, like I'd be like, I don't even like saying that because I'm not big into titles. But for me, it was like I've always wanted Preaches to be a platform for others. I always want that to, if that's a stepping stone for you to do your thing and empower you, let's do it. I want to champion you and let's get you in that. You know what I mean? So for me, family's big. One of my mentors just told me before, he's like, you know, people say, hey, you got to keep your circle small. Like I don't even have a circle anymore. I have a dot. But that dot, I know that dot's riding with me.
Strong.
Right.
He's strong. So I'd rather have those 2, 3 that are rocking with me than have the circle that's somewhere. No, like we're rocking. You know, we're in it. We're boom.
No questions.
And so for me, family is huge. Even though the people that are on our team too that aren't necessarily blood related, I see them as brothers. You know, Bobby was in my wedding back in California.
Wow.
Bobby and I go way back. Johnny, I've known for a minute. I see him as a brother. You know what I mean? Tyler, he's one of my best friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
I told him, bro, like you're my brother. So to me, it's like it's family. You know what I mean? And I think that's so important. You know what I mean? And in the midst of that is, I think where things get lost when you see families, this and that is, I think if you honor people and you value people, no matter who they are, it'll work out.
Yep.
And the more you honor and value them, the more they're going to fight for you, the more they're going to champion, the more they're going to want to see it through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's been big for us and from the get-go. And the team has always known that, you know what I mean? And so it's been a cool journey to be able to do this with my brother.
Yeah.
And see him flourish and learn and grow and really come into that, you know, of what he does, you know what I mean?
Right. I admire that. So that's awesome, man.
And actually, before we go into that, our next part of our episode, there is a question that we ask every single person that comes here. And we kind of hit on it early on in the episode and whatnot, but I just want to shine some light on it. And that's your perspective on what is overstepping poverty to you.
I was really thinking about that. It took me some time to think about that because, like I said, again, I didn't want to just give a generic answer to that. I want to be intentional with that. And for me, there's different layers to that. But a big one in that, you know, you probably heard that saying, you're a product of your environment.
Absolutely.
But you're a product of your environment until you change that environment. You know what I mean? When my mentor told me, I'm like, yo, because people, you know, because I believe that we can use that as a scapegoat.
Right.
Well, I'm a product of our environment. That's how I grew up. That's all I know. But yeah, but you can change that.
Yep.
You can change that environment, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And so for me, like I said, overstepping that's what it means to me is I want to be that change. Like, yo, I want to see this change. Well, be that change.
Yep.
Right.
And inspire others to do so. So early on when we were talking about overstepping poverty, it's not just the financial aspect, but there's so much. I'd rather not have a lot of money, but be rich in this, be rich in relationships, family, you know, health. You know what I mean? Because like I said, money comes and goes. So for me, overstepping poverty is really that to me is like, yo, like I grew up a certain way, but that doesn't mean that that's what I'm destined to do or be. I can change that environment and I can change that if I put my mind to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, if we could just end the episode there and just mic drop right there, I love that. I love that. But there's more. There's more. So now we want to actually open it up to our next part of our episode, what is called Roundtable. This is where you can ask us questions, things that you've thought of course, ask Zacchaeus and I. So I want you to fire away.
Yeah, definitely. One question that I had, and this is, you know, for both of you guys, you know, as being, quote, and I even hate using this, but being, you know, minority in this community that we live in, you know, predominantly white, how have you guys dealt with certain situations that maybe have happened to you and still keep your eye on the ball, still keep your eye on the goal and not get distracted or get thrown off because someone did this or said this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where, yeah, we'll address that and we'll do what we got to do, but you still keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think it actually took me a little while. It took me a little while to really to grow myself individually, because I used to give everyone the power and I would allow them to change my entire day, and I allowed them to control me, you know, and as I continued to grow a different perspective and really just think of different things on how I don't want you to have any control anymore. Yeah. I had to control my emotions on that. And so how that's worked for me is like, there's been plenty of situations that I have been in where I could tell that I'm being, discriminated against, or or anything like that. Instead of, just sitting and well, sometimes I will confront it. I'm a man of many words and stuff. So if I could put anything politically correct and confront you, you probably won't even know that I just confronted you, but because it may have went through past your head, but I guarantee you if anyone else was around, they knew exactly what I was talking about. Sometimes it's turning the other cheek. Like, just because they have that thought process and whatnot does not mean that they can drag me down with them.
That's so
so and the moment you give someone that power, they have all control, and I ain't giving you that control.
Right, that's so good.
Pass.
That's good.
I think for me, that's really the reason why we're here at this table. I was in financial services before as well. I was with New York Life doing a lot of the same stuff. At New York Life, they had a thing that's called the $1 Million Table. And it's where these high earners earned over $1 million or something like that. Well, I look, and it's a wall full of pictures, and every person on there was white. Every person I worked with was white.
Yeah.
There's two ways that you can look at it. You're going to go through things, and how you react is really ultimately just reflects back on you the most, unfortunately. But in that moment, I'm like, you know what? I want to be on that wall. I want to be there. I want to do that.
Yep.
I'm no longer with them anymore. But through that, it's about really building your own table, building your table if there's no seat for you,
right?
And kind of like what you're doing and what you've done is you started something for yourself because there was a need here in this community and they didn't even know it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's just ignorance, being in a place like this where there is some prejudice and discrimination and stuff like that. But at the same time, here in Sioux Falls, here in South Dakota, you can really make your life how you want it to be here.
Absolutely.
If you're really dealing with a lot of that stuff pretty often, I think you got to change who you're surrounding yourself with or where you're going. You know what I mean? Because I personally, I don't experience it as much. And I don't know why. Maybe I don't notice it. But then again, I don't feel like I'm always in this situation for that to kind of present itself. So, it's about who you surround yourself with, I think.
You probably heard that saying, too. You show me the 5 people that you're around, and I'll tell you who you are.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's so important. Yeah, the people that we hang around with.
Yeah.
It shapes us. It rubs off on us. You know what I mean? So I think that's good.
I guess I experienced it more when I first got back to South Dakota and went to O'Gorman. Is really when I experienced most of the discrimination or prejudice, I should say, more than any other time that I have lived in Sioux Falls, and I think that was me going into a place where I can count on one hand how many people of color were there, right? I had people that had these preconceived notions on me because of the way I walked.
Right,
I'm like, what do you even, how does that even sound?
What you wear.
Right. So it's like, we're at O'Gorman where all the kids are wearing Skechers. I was wearing the khaki Air Forces.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? And that's that little sauce. Now you go to O'Gorman now, all the girls there got them dirty Air Forces on.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
yes,
so it's all about changing the culture, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I like that question.
That's good. Yeah, that's something that I've been just working through. You know what I mean? And especially in the spaces that I'm in now and conversations that I'm having, it's that same thing. Like I see a lot of, and like I said, that's nothing to do with, I'm not trying to make it a race thing, but I'm I want to be an example to people that look like me.
Sure.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Of you can do it too. You know what I mean? Like, if I came from pretty much nothing, and if you can do something, you know what I mean? So for me, it's like, I want to be that example to the next one.
Yeah, you're the representation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
To a growing community. Yeah. For sure. You have any other questions for us?
Yeah, and I had one more. In you guys' respective areas of what you guys do, we kind of hit this on a little bit before we started, but in your guys' respective careers, what are those things that you guys would say are challenges that we can maybe, overcome as we look to really look? I want to be an example. I want to be this. I want to have an impact. What are those challenges in you guys' respective areas that you would say, you're faced with?
I think the biggest challenge for a lot of people in my area is just a lot of times people have a fear or a problem with asking questions. A lot of times people know that they need help, but they don't know how to ask for it, or they're scared to even take that step. So a lot of what I do, and a lot of what I pride myself on in the work that I do, is getting those people off of the fence and into the driver's seat so they can start making those changes of buying a house, you know. And a lot of times, you know, I'll tell people, look, put the application in, you know, if credit's messed up or whatever it is, we'll figure it out. It might not be right now, but at least you'll know moving forward that you have a game plan on the things that you need to do to get in good standing, so you can start to get out there and start building your life, right? So a lot of it is just helping people get over that initial fear. And oftentimes people think that they should know things that they've never been taught.
Right. The reason why, and I'm glad you said, because the reason why I asked that question is, I think sometimes too, and I know that for a fact in like the Hispanic culture, if they don't know something, they're not going to go and try to, because they feel either, whether it's intimidated or they can't speak the language, there's these barriers that will automatically push them away from wanting to do something like that. And that this can set them up for success and things like that, where if they can't speak the language or don't understand it, they'd rather maybe not do it. And it'd be like, yo, this can benefit you so much. You know what I mean? And that's why I asked that question.
When I was with New York Life and I was selling life insurance, I started to learn, though, a lot of the things that had happened in the past within that industry. And it happened in the mortgage industry as well, where people were discriminated against when it came to trying to go get life insurance or trying to buy a house, even if they were qualified. And that's deeply rooted. So a lot of it, you know, when I was at New York Life and I see that everybody's white besides me, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at that as these Hispanics out here, these African Americans, these Africans that are out here, they need somebody to represent them. They need somebody that's going to help them see those things or learn those things. And even if they don't get signed up, at least they're better aware of their options and those things out there for them. So it's all about education and getting people the knowledge that they need. Yeah. What about you?
Honestly, it's the exact same thing. It's education. There's a challenge that I always see. You know, I'm in the car business, and I think one big thing a lot of people usually like think of right away is that, I mean, people in the car business are sleazy or they're bad people, you know, like, oh, they're salesmen, they're just trying to sell me and whatnot. And some people do, unfortunately, have bad intentions. You know, unfortunately, there's not good apples in everything, you know, when it comes to that there. But I know that every day that I go to work and whatnot, I'm there to teach. I'm there to teach not only my coworkers and help them learn, but I'm also there to teach and help my customers learn. You know, I'm taking them through a process. I know previously I spoke on this in an episode, but I don't take my job lightly. There's one thing that people need, and that's transportation, because it's to either get to work, to put food on the table. Either it's dropping your kids off at school or daycare or anything like that. But it's a necessity, you know, when it comes to that. But also the big thing is just also teaching them on, you know, credit. It's one thing that most people don't learn, and it sucks. It's never too late, but sometimes it's so late that people give up on it, you know. And that's what I'm there for. I'm there to help, and I'm there to really teach you exactly how to start from this process and move forward. And whether if you need help building it or you need help, I mean, really establishing and having that's what I'm there for, you know.
And I'm glad you say that, because in the second part to why I asked that question was, I look at it in the lens of like, if somebody was in my position and didn't know how to speak English or respond to it, like, I'll be candid, and I won't say where, but I had a interesting situation happen to me at a dealership here in town. Okay. Where, you know, my wife was there with me in LA, and it was very obvious that I was being discriminated. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I remember I was starting to get really frustrated, but I quickly changed that perspective. Like, yo, like, I got more sad than anything, and the reason why was like, yo, if this was somebody else that couldn't defend themselves, couldn't speak the language, couldn't, you know what I mean? Like, yo, like, how would have that been? You know what I mean? Right. And I really think through that, because I was like, yo, I was in this position, and I'm blessed enough to where I can have the conversation, I can set that straight where others can't. Right. And sometimes that can be like, yo, this happened to me once, I'm never doing it again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I'm constantly thinking, yo, like, how can we educate people? Right. And I don't say this in a negative way, but a lot of it just comes, they're illiterate and not knowing things or the opportunities that they have or this and that. And That was the reason why I asked that question, because, that happened to me recently. I'm like, yo, what would if that would have happened to somebody else who doesn't know English or can't understand the language? And I'm constantly thinking, okay, what are we doing to help and improve that? You know what I mean?
No, it's sad. It's really sad, actually. I had a realtor who reached out to me. She was having a hard time finding a Spanish-speaking loan officer. And by my appearance, she walks up to me. She started speaking Spanish. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. For her name is Andrea Morales. So if you are Spanish-speaking here in Sioux Falls, she's a great realtor to reach out to. At Cross Country Mortgage, where I'm at, we have a Spanish-speaking loan officer, actually. So I was able to connect them. And
that's so good.
It was something where obviously I wanted the deals. She was getting a lot of deals. She was going to send me a lot of leads. And I'm like, you know what? That, as much as I would love that and the money that would come with that, your clients definitely need somebody that's going to be able to communicate with them way better. And that's not for me, that's for the client, because they deserve that. They deserve the representation. So, it sucks you had to deal with that, because it's really bullshit.
All right, so I want to move into our very final part of this episode. You've been given some great knowledge, great experiences, providing to all of us, and everyone that's listening as well. I'm sure is very appreciative of it. So what I want to do is I want to move into that last part. And I want you to give us, your 5 tips, tricks, and hacks on how you'd help someone take the next steps in overstepping poverty.
No, definitely. And I just want to say something that, to me, and I go back to that, you know what I mean? I think also mentors help you look smart, because the things that I'm saying are coming from me. It's me writing them for my mentors. And I'm like, this is good.
That's the knowledge,
exactly.
That's the
I'm
knowledge.
like, I want that knowledge. I want to pull from that.
Yep.
So, So, I mean, definitely, like, for me, and these are things that I really live by, honestly. First one, and I've said it, and I'll reiterate again, finding a mentor. Like, if there's something that you want to get better at, you know what I mean? One of my mentors always said, and I always refer that, he says, you know what you're good at and what you're not good at, surround yourself with those people that are really good at that. That's what good leaders do. So find a mentor. If there's something that you're passionate about, whatever that is, find someone in your community that is good at that. And see it. The worst that they can say is no. Closed mouths don't get fed. You know what I mean? Really go out there and put yourself in. And I just have a quick story on that. One of my good friends, he used to live in Dallas. He lives in Nashville now, and a big entrepreneur. He's killing it out there. And he wanted to get mentored by this multimillionaire, blah, blah, blah. And he kept hitting him up. And the guy told him, okay, you really want to get mentored by me, right? Okay, bet, let's do this. And he's like, okay, meet me here tomorrow at 4. And, I go on my run at 4, and then you can just join me. And then we go from there. And so my guy's excited that he's like, okay, he's at least going to let me go on a run with him and kind of see where he goes. But he's like, I'm going to get mentored. So he goes home, and he's kind of like, yo, that means I got to wake up at 3 in the morning, 3:30, because he's like, I got to be there at 4 in the morning and this and that. So he woke up, he put his alarm at 3. He's like, I'm not going to miss this. I've been waiting. So he gets to the guy's office. He gets there at 3:45. He wanted to impress him, be there 15 minutes earlier. He gets there. He's like, he should be here any moment now. It gets 4. He's not there. 4:15, 4:30, 5, and he's like, yo, he's not here. He waited till like 5:30. He wasn't there. So he went home. He sent him an email, and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know I was there at 3:45, but I didn't see you. Maybe we can link up another time. The guy messages him back. He's like, 2 things funny. He's like, funny. I meant 4 p.m. But then he's like, but now I know how serious you are about this.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jeez. And so from there, that's been one of his mentors, and you know what I mean? It's been dope. But that when he told me that story, I'm like, yo, like going back to, man, if you're passionate about something, you're going to do whatever it takes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're going to do whatever it takes to be there and make it happen. Because it's not just going to happen. We don't have a genie in a bottle. We got to make it happen. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's a big one, finding a mentor. Another one that I want to talk about, and my mentor's Vani from Think 3D. When he told me this, like, this has always been stuck in my head, and I move in this. He's like, there's that difference between social currency and money, finance.
Yep.
When we talk about currency, people quick go to finance. But he's like, yo, money comes and goes. What's more important is those relationships.
Right.
That's going to outweigh that. And so he's like, when people tell you, because he's like, when I talk about currency, I'm not, a lot of times I'm not even talking about money. I'm talking about social currency.
Right.
The relation, who am I building those relationship with? How am I moving in those spaces? And so for me, that was huge. I think so many times too, we think success, we think about money and this and that. And I think it's going back to kind of shifting that mindset and that perspective. It's not necessarily, the money will come and go. If you're doing the right things, taking the right steps, being disciplined, that will come.
Right.
But man, those relationships with those key people, that's what's going to outweigh that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, that's huge when we're thinking of that is don't just think of, the finance part of it. Think of those relationships that you're building and how are you stewarding those relationships? Right. Because that's what's going to help you in those moments. That's what's going to take you there. You know what I mean? That's what's going to help open the door, to bigger and better things. So that's another tip is don't just be so quick to think about the financial aspect of it. Is those relationships, that social currency. That's been just stuck with me for the longest time. The other one, we kind of hit about it. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. So just, man, be intentional about who you surround yourself with.
Right.
Why do I keep making the same mistakes? Why do I keep falling? It's okay. So I think a lot of the times we need to look in the mirror and then look and say, why are these things happening? Ask the questions. Why do I keep falling in I keep making the same mistake, these same habits. Yeah. There's this book that I read, man, it's changed my life, by James Clear. And I think he was here last year, but the book's called Atomic Habits. Yeah. I encourage everyone to read that book. It's life-changing. It was a New York bestseller. And what he talks about in there, he talks about, 1%. Like everybody wants to get better 100% all the time. And he's like, people want to go from A to Z. They think it's just going to be a straight shot and I'm going to be there. But he's like, you got to set those attainable goals that are going to get you to where you need to be. So he's like, so if you get better, if I make a commitment to get better 1% every day, at the end of the year, I got better 365%.
Yeah.
So he's like, I think everybody can get better 1% a day.
Right.
So for me, that's another tip is really look at your life. And if you feel like you're in this funk, you're in this rut, and that things aren't changing, really look, okay, who are those people that are surrounding with you? Are they uplifting you? Are they challenging you to be better? Are they holding you back? Like, I won't touch a lot on this, but that's very evident when you see the situation with John Morant. The people that he's surrounded with are not wanting to look in his best interest, because if they would, they'd be encouraging him, challenging him. Yo, you need to quit that. Look what you're about to give up. Look, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, so it's like, man, when you think you have the bag, you can lose it so quick because of the people that you have around you.
Yeah.
That's the bag's never secured. You can lose it if you don't have the right people around you. So I think for that is, man, if I know that this is where I want to go, do I have those people that are in my life that are going to help me get there? That's why I said I don't have a small circle anymore. I have a dot.
Right.
Because I can't afford to have these distractions. So when I have that dot is I have those people that I know that are riding with me, that believe in me, that will not only encourage me, that will challenge me. Right. That they'll hit me up and they have the permission to be like, yo, what are you doing? Yeah. You're acting up. You know what I mean? But they have that permission because we've built a relationship. You know what I mean? So for that's huge for me is those people that you surround yourself with. You know what I mean? The other one is you really serve your community. I think a lot of the times too is we think about, I want to make this impact, and we think that it has to start with the biggest impact that I can make in Sioux Falls. Right. But it's those small things that we might think are insignificant that are significant. Because then you create that habit. Create that habit. Okay, why don't you start small first? Because you're going to bite into this and it's going to be too much for you right now. Right. Start small. Just go serve the community, whatever that looks like. Yeah. You can't miss that. There's so many opportunities, so many nonprofits here, so many things that you can do to go and serve your community. Sure. You know what I mean? And start building those habits, start building those relationships and get into that. Like, I can't stress that enough is when my mentors kept reiterating that. And it's funny because all of my mentors in that season that I was in kept hitting the same thing. They don't even, some of them don't even know each other. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? You know what I mean? They're kind of telling me the same thing. There's probably some truth to this. Right. And so those are the things that they, would reiterate. So, man, I just encourage you, go and just serve. Whatever that looks like in any capacity. There's so many things that we can do to serve our community. You know what I mean? That don't take a lot, and also not everybody needs to know. So if you're going to go serve, there's some times where it warrants and it's good to do. But not every time you need to get a shot, take a picture, put a selfie. Look what I'm you know what I mean? Right. Yep. Just do it out of the heart. You know what I mean? And just see, so many times I've done things like that I go with the mindset that I'm going to bless someone. And in return, I'm the one that I'm feeling blessed.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it goes back to that shift in the mindset. And I think the fifth one would be, and this one's been big for me because I'm still a work in process, and I think we all are. As humans, as human beings, we can be selfish and prideful. But the big one, I remember when my mentor was challenging me, he said, get people to be interested in you and not impressed. So many times we want to impress people with what we do. Hey, look what I'm doing. Or I ask somebody, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. And sometimes people wear that like a badge of honor.
Right.
Where you can be busy and not be doing anything and not be productive.
Right.
So even in that, I catch myself now. When somebody asks me that, I don't say I'm busy anymore. You know what I mean? Because I try to be intentional with what I'm saying and speaking out. But it's because I can be busy and do nothing. You know what I mean?
Real.
And so for me, there's like, it started changing that. I don't want to impress anyone. You know what I mean? But how can I get you interested? Because then it goes back. There's a relational aspect there. There's more intention there.
And start asking questions.
So yeah, exactly.
Right.
There you go. Don't try to make statements, but ask questions.
Right.
That's what makes people interested. And that was big with my mentors too. Because then they can sniff it out. You know, like early on when I was young and I had my first, I was trying to impress them. Oh, I did this, and they're like, okay, you know what I mean? You're not going to impress me.
Yep.
And so that's when they were challenging. No, I want to be interested. So that's where they ask questions. And I think that's huge. I think, you know, whatever those things, I think they will help you be successful in whatever it is that you want to do in life.
Yep.
You know, that's why our motto at Preaches is practice what you preach. People ask me, what does that mean to you? I've always wanted that to be a conversation starter. So for us, it really just is that is, you know, whatever it is that you're talking about, whatever that may be, just make sure you're living it out. There's so many people in this society nowadays that just talk about it, but don't live it out.
Yep.
So whatever that is that you're talking about, just make sure you're living it out and be consistent with that in life. I think nowadays people want authenticity. And I think that's a big thing that we're lacking in this world because of that. We talk about it, but we don't live it out.
Well, there you guys have it. The 5 tips, tricks, and hacks and how to overcome, you know, and overstep poverty, those levels of success. We appreciate that so much. And as we're appreciative of the knowledge that you've brought on to the episode here, we're appreciative of you just being here, you know. So thank you so much. Thank you for talking about Preaches and your life journey, whatnot. So I know we are, as well as our viewers are very lucky to have you in here.
I'm honored to be here. You guys are killing it in the community. And I low-key stalked you guys and just saw what you guys are doing. You guys are killing it, man. And so when I got the opportunity to do this, I was blessed. It was like we were in Florida this past weekend, and we were supposed to get back Sunday night. Our flight got delayed, and we didn't end up leaving until yesterday night. And it almost got delayed again.
Damn.
And I was like, nah, I don't want to miss this.
Oh,
we were able to
man.
get back, and we figured it out. But no, I'm honored to be a part of this, and really what
that.
you guys do inspires me to keep doing and just trying to have an impact in our community.
I love that.
I appreciate that, man.
Yes.
For real.
Well, there you guys have it. Daquan Brooks, and
Zacchaeus Shaw.
we'll see you guys next time on Overstepping Poverty. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Overstepping Poverty. We hope you found this week's discussion informative and thought-provoking. We know that tackling poverty is a complex issue, but by working together and understanding the root causes, we can make progress towards creating a more equitable society. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our show. Until next time, let's take the next steps in Overstepping Poverty.